Hey guys, I was sitting there having a little wander through the internet as we all tend to do and getting a bit lost with random thoughts and everything, and I had this one particular thought come into my mind and wanted to explore it, and as I started to look into it, I wanted to share it with you lot. And what it is the idea of now famous artists and bands who got rejected by record labels. And this is something that we all know is going to happen at some point, but more often than not, we see these big artists and bands and selling millions of records and doing these stadium tours or whatever else, and you tend not to really think about the beginning of their career and the kind of rejections they may go through. So I decided to have a look into that, and like I say, I wanted to share it with you guys. So right now I've got 6 artists who got rejected at the start of their career by labels and people who probably really regretted it later on. We'll start off with a pretty big one. We're going to start with the Beatles. Now, at the start of their career, they had an audition with Dick Rowe of Decca Records, and this is a gentleman who would later be known as the man who turned down the Beatles. In his own words, he believed the guitar groups were on the way out and that they had no future in show business. Some might say that he was just a little bit wrong in that assumption, going on to see how massive the Beatles became and still are to this day. In his defense though, even George Martin, the producer who helped shape the sound of the Beatles and helped bring out their vision, even he admitted that he wouldn't have signed them based on the audition that they gave to Dick Rowe, and that basically they were crap. But then we all know what happened with the Beatles, so while it probably sucked at the time, I don't think it caused too much of a problem for them in the long run. Next we have Oasis. Now, anyone who had any kind of musical awareness around the mid to late 90s will know how big of a deal Oasis were, and there was even the kind of Britpop rivalry of you're either with Oasis or you're with Blur. But before they became such a big thing in the music industry, they had their struggles, as you can imagine, because they're in this list. Now, Noel Gallagher was a big fan of Factory Records and the kind of artists that they produce, so he wanted to go and audition for them. Sadly, they decided that Oasis were too baggy for them. Now, to be fair, while Factory Records are known for acts like New Order and the Happy Mondays, they are also the people who turned down the Smiths for being too gloomy and the Stone Roses for being too goth. So apparently it's a kind of you win some, you lose some. Or lose a lot. Next up is a little band from Ireland known as U2. Back in 1979, they presented a demo tape to RSO Records, to which they received a response saying that after listening to the tape and careful consideration, they've decided that it is not suitable for them at that time, and that they wish them luck for the future. Considering about a year later they had their first international single with 11 O'Clock TikTok and have since sold around 200 million records, I think they've done alright for themselves. While as I've already said, we can imagine that most, if not all, artists get some kind of rejection at the start of their career, I was kind of surprised to find a particular detail about Ed Sheeran. There's at least one interview in particular where he detailed the fact that he kept getting responses from record labels saying that he was a little chubby and ginger and that this wouldn't be a good marketing tool for them. It seems to have done him well since, but that kind of thing at the time is pretty harsh. Now, to take a few quotes directly from the interview that I was looking at in particular, he stated that every single label I had gone to at the time had told me this song wasn't a hit, this song wouldn't work, and the fact that I was slightly chubby and ginger wasn't a good marketing tool for them. The way I maintain self-belief is that I knew I wasn't good at anything else, so what else was I going to do? And secondly, with the whole look and songs that the label rejected, I knew it was really important you stay true to yourself. Being an individual makes you stand out from the crowd. It's like if you want something so badly, go out there and grab it. Just keep on doing it. There are people out there who want it just as much as you do, so it's just as important to keep pushing yourself and working at it. Personally, I think those are really inspiring words, and it's something that I've heard various people say in the past, but it is something that I think a lot of us could do with remembering. So thank you very much, Ed Sheeran. As I said before, there are some people in the music industry that are just so big, you could never imagine them getting rejected. And Elvis Presley has to be one of those people. Now, I found 2 examples of Elvis being rejected at the early points of his career, and they kind of sound similar. They sound like they could be the same story kind of mixed up. So I don't know if that's the case or if these are 2 separate events, but I'll let you know both of them. The first example comes in the form of a rejection from Jimmy Denny, the manager at the time of the Grand Ole Opry. Now, at this time, or shortly before, Elvis had been working as a truck driver. After just one performance at the Grand Ole Opry, Jimmy Denny fired Elvis, telling him, "You ain't going nowhere, son. You ought to go back to driving a truck." Now, the second example, as I said, is very similar to the first one. Elvis had the chance to audition for an established musician known as Eddie Bond. After nervously performing a couple of songs for him, Eddie turns him down, telling him to stick to truck driving because you're never going to make it as a singer. As I said, I'm not too sure if these are 2 separate things or if it's just a mixed up kind of story of the same event, but in any case, we all know one thing, and that is that they were very, 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 very wrong. Now, the last rejection for this list comes from 80s Newcastle metal band Venom, who received probably the world's harshest rejection letter from EMI Records. The letter simply said, "F*** off." Yep. So that's it for this list. Hope you found it as interesting as I did whilst looking up this stuff. There's a few others that I found that I didn't include in this one, so do let me know if you'd like to see another one of these, or if there's anything else you might be interested in learning about to do with musical artists, etc. that you want me to look into and I can make another video about. Do let me know. If you did like this video and you're interested in cover songs and some various other musical related things, then do please hit the subscribe button. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye.